bloom in spring. Tell me who gives the air that you breathe. Ooh. Everything that you need he will provide, so you may as well come on and give him a try. 'Cause he's awesome. Ooh, he's awesome. He's awesome. What would I do without him? Couldn't make a move without him. I don't wanna be without him. He's awesome.
What's up, ladies? Welcome to ZMR Ministries. I'm Pastor Z, and it's Friday, so you know what time it is. It's another episode of Girl Talk. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about, is privacy the best policy? When is it a good time to allow people into your world and your business? Now, y'all know on Fridays, we just jump right into it. We're not going to do no introductions, but I got my family here, Candace, my cousins, Tashea, and my good friend, TC. So I got family to the right, friends to the left. I'm covered, y'all. Don't come for me. No, I'm just kidding. So we're going to dive right into it, ladies. So privacy. Is it the best policy? Is it the best policy? We all pretty private. So what's your definition of privacy? Because everybody's definition is different, right? Usually, because what you consider private, some other people would be like, you know,
that's true.
Like I'm one of those people that don't change relationship statuses on Facebook.
No.
And some people will do it and just be like, don't nobody know about my relationship though. You see what I'm saying? It's two different definitions of what they consider private. So what's yours?
Ooh, wee. I mean, I don't have much business though, but I mean, I have kids, so you know, you don't let everybody around your kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's my inner circle, my inner bubble. So there are people that like I'm cordial with everybody, I'm friendly with everybody, but then there are people like I'll talk to you and you can talk to me, which is a whole nother level. Because sometimes people talk to me, I'm like, okay.
Right.
This conversation's over. I don't need to talk back to you. Like, you don't even know what's going on with me. That's my business.
Right.
So, I do have a little bit of privacy.
What about you, Candace? Never. Candace don't even tell you her name.
What's my definition of privacy? To me, I feel like you said, it does mean different things to different people. But for me, because like you said, you know, you can have different relationships with different people, you share different things, but I feel like it's a part of me that I'm not willing to like sacrifice that boundary.
Right.
Because there's certain things in your life that you take so much time in protecting and building. So to me, like whatever area that is, like that's private to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's, am I allowing like extra energy to kind of like interfere with what I've built? So I like it.
Shia?
It's case by case.
That's good though. What do you mean?
There are certain things that I would tell certain people
Right.
that I'm not going to tell everybody else. There are certain things I'm probably not going to tell anybody. You know, but I don't tell people my business.
I know that's right. That's me. And here's where the problem, where it gets kind of tricky for folks concerning me, because I don't put anybody in the category. So you know how some people, they're like, you know, oh, I tell my close friends, or I tell my family.
Right.
I share this. Everybody in the same boat.
That's right.
So if I ain't sharing with none of y'all. And so that's where it can kind of become a problem. Because, you know, of course, when you're family, you feel kind of entitled. You know, it just comes, or if you're close, you know, if you're a close friends feel like, I'm entitled to know that. And it's kind of like that underlining thing, like, why you didn't tell me? And then the moment you say, I mean, it was really none of your business, that offense jump in. Pause, I know we were cool. You know, and it's so funny because sometimes we can have a double standard. Right? Because I know how I am. I'm very secluded. I'm very isolated. Y'all know my phone lives on what? Do not disturb. And I'm telling you, right?
Moved across the
country.
Okay.
So, you know, that's how I get down. Let me fix this for you, TC. You got a dread.
But I saw a post on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
the other day, and it said, every friend isn't deserving of every situation.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
And like you just said, you know, you're like, why you didn't tell me? That was not your business.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I don't discriminate. Now, this family and this friend, and they all had the same answer when I just said that. You know, they were like, she just up and leave, or she just. And so my thing is, I know we said it comically how my phone lives on Do Not Disturb. That's across the board. I ain't blocking folks. Now, some of y'all blocked. I'm just saying. It's the truth. But
It happens.
but when it comes to leaving my phone on Do Not Disturb, that's my boundary. And so it's a way, it's not like, well, I'm just being private, but it's how I protect my privacy. It's how I monitor who I'll allow into my circle. What are some ways that you guys create boundaries for yourselves to not to keep others out, but to just protect your space?
I mean, because people will, as long as you give, they will take. So at some point in time, you have to say no, because if I don't have anything left for me, I can't give no more to other people.
20, baby.
So I mean, for me, it really is a matter of. I mean, doesn't matter what they call me, but if they did, if they did. But I mean, even before, I'm a teacher, so before the school year started, I told them before school started, don't ask me to do anything extra this year.
Okay.
This year's been extra enough.
And you tell your job
So, like this, if you need Mrs. McCullar to do anything, the answer is no. And I'm
Right.
telling you this before school starts, so you won't be surprised when I tell you no.
Right.
So I just kind of went ahead and told everybody no before they could even ask, so nobody would be shocked or their feelings wouldn't be hurt. And when I'm available, I help, but I don't sign up to help. And I just tell people like I'm not available for that. Like I'm just not. So telling people no, and if they get mad, they can go be mad in their own little corner.
No, it's healthy, y'all.
Yes, because you know, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. You know, and when you say no, it's like,
Right.
But it's okay for you to say no because you don't feel like it.
Listen, I would know you to death. Do you hear me? with no hesitation, none. TC to my we know. What are some boundaries you set for yourself?
Boundaries. I've learned to say no.
Same thing.
No, for real. I've learned to say no. I have learned to be selfish a little bit. I do not include everybody in my personal business, but I'm very upfront about things too. So I feel like the boundaries are, this is what it is, and there won't be any surprises later, you know, because I don't want nobody to feel entitled to me.
Yes.
And you know what, that has to be established. You know what I mean? I think over time, and you know what, I'm gonna get into that in a second. Go ahead, Candace. I'm sorry, because girl, I was about to go on a tangent.
Got to take it.
I was like, come on, if I snatch it, go on, Candace.
For me, I think that my biggest boundary is definitely emotionally. Because I think that with anything, that comes with obligation, also comes with some sort of emotion behind it to kind of like sway you or guilt you into, you know, doing a certain thing when it's not what you feel or it's not something that makes you happy. And that's whether it's work, whether it's family, friends, you know, and dating and things like that. And so I've learned to basically detach the emotion from the request.
That's good.
You know what I mean? And make sure that it makes sense aside from emotion.
Right.
You know, and then I'm able to, you know, like, tell you how I feel or set that boundary or we can kind of come to some agreement. But yeah, I think that was a big thing because, you know, even in work, you don't want to let down your superiors.
Yeah.
In family, you don't want to let down your grandparents or your parents and things like that. So, yeah.
I think the biggest thing with me when it comes to privacy is protecting my peace.
Yes.
Right? Yes. But, you know, a lot of people don't consider that. And so you have people who are private because they've been open and then their business have been shared. And so now they're like, that's why I don't talk.
That's me.
And then you have people who are just naturally private people. Like they don't tell. I have a friend, we have been friends since high school, right? And she don't tell nobody nothing. I'm talking about nothing. And then when you're like, is it that you don't trust me? And she's like, oh no, I just don't tell nothing. And you're like, oh, okay, I mean, that's cool. And so when she does say something, you listening hard. You're like, what? What, are you kidding me? So then it makes you question, is something wrong? Why are you opening up right now? But I know for me, it's a matter of course, being hurt. Yeah. I'm super guarded. Right? And so I remember some years ago, my cousin, he talked to me and he said, Zanya, when it comes to relationships, it's really 3 categories. He was like, it's the big outer space, right? And that's everybody else. He said, and then you have your inner circle. And those are, maybe a handful of close people, close friends. He said, but then you have a core. And usually that core is like 1 or 2 people. That if nobody else know anything, your core gonna know. And he was like, that's usually like your spouse or just a really close friend or something like that. And he was like, you have to establish these 3 levels in every every area of your life. Because if not, then what'll happen is you'll start seeing things like you're sharing things with your outer circle who you should have only shared it with your core. And that has happened to me where, people in my inner circle that you feel like, oh, they can handle this. I can trust them. And it's like they have matured to that level. And so now it's like, okay, now I got to kick you out of the inner circle and into the outer plate with everything else. And it reminds me of, I remember I went and had brunch with my sister a couple of years ago. We was discussing some things. And she was like, I don't like that you push everybody out. And I was like, I'm not pushing anybody out. I'm just comfortable in my space. And we had ordered this bowl of gumbo. I'm going somewhere with this. I sound like a preacher. We had ordered this bowl of gumbo, right? And they brought it, the big bowl, on a plate. So when I looked in there, I was like, oh man, I forgot to tell them I didn't want no cut up celery. I didn't want, extra tomatoes. I didn't want all these other vegetables. So I took my spoon and I started dipping it out. And she said, oh, can I have those vegetables? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. So as we're having this conversation, we're engaging, and I said, let me give you a prime example of there's no right or wrong way to how to protect your space. I said, what you allow in your life may not be what I tolerate. Does it mean I'm right and you're wrong? No. And vice versa. I said, when they brought us the same bowl of gumbo, I didn't want the vegetables. So what did I do? I picked them up. You said, can I have those? I didn't go, that's nasty. You like those? I just let you have it. I said, so what you tolerate for your life doesn't mean that I have to tolerate it. This is my protective zone. I don't allow cut up celery in my zone. Okay? So if I deem that you are celery, you got to go. You feel me? And so it's like, how do you get across to other people? Because a lot of times people will try to project what's comfortable for them onto you. And then, try to make you feel bad for having your zone, your boundaries, your protective space. How do you guys deal with people like that? Look,
I think that really just comes from maturity, where you are in life, things that you've experienced that I haven't experienced. I can't tell you not to wear those red bottoms. That's what you want to wear. That's what you want to wear.
Right.
I wore them already. They hurt. You think they cute, so keep them.
Right.
Because if I say, oh my gosh, I'm going, well, they feel good to me. Like it's the same. So it's just knowing where people come from.
Yeah. What was you gonna say?
So one thing, and we were actually talking about this at work the other day. Sometimes I have to tell people, because you know how I am. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious, but people think I'm being funny. So I always sometimes I have to tell people, listen to what I said, not what you think I said.
Right.
Hear what I'm actually saying. Don't take what it means if you would have said,
try to interpret it,
and then put that on me. That's not what I said. So I'm not gonna own that. So hear what I'm saying, and sometimes it is a difficult conversation to say, like, you took that the wrong way. Because what I meant when I said what I said is exactly what I said. Like, you're reading into it too much.
Right.
And so oftentimes I had a problem with people like, hold on, you reading into it and that's not what I meant. But a lot of that just, when we have that clash, it's like, are we gonna move forward in this relationship, or kind of like you said, you just gonna stay in this outer circle because we've had this clash now, and you will not pass go. Like, you don't collect too much. You don't get to move to the next level with me, and it doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. We just don't vibe, and people need to understand, like, it's okay.
But like you said, they can't move to the next level with you because they're not ready yet.
So, and maybe I'm not ready. You know, maybe it's me, and I'm fine with that. But I'm not gonna play. Like, I'm not gonna play with you just so I can be in your circle where I don't belong. Never. Clearly, I don't belong there. So I'm not gonna.
What about you, Candace?
For me, I think that it was always like more of a task, the people that were closest to me, to kind of set that in place. So I had to learn. It was a lot easier for me to check the outer circle. It's easy to check.
Right.
The outer
Oh
circle.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with checking the outer
None
circle.
at all.
I said what? But it's that the closer you get, to that inner circle, the harder it is to maintain those boundaries and set those standards with those people. I think that the biggest one was my mother. And it wasn't something small, but in the grand scheme of things, it was small, but it really affected me.
Right.
And I've never been affected like that. And it's like, sometimes I feel like with our parents, we don't want to say anything. Especially, we love them. We don't want to say anything, but it just got to a point to where I know the outer Candace me was feeling a real away. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I have to address this. And when I had that conversation with her, she just received it. She received it, and we talked about it, and it made me feel like, wow, look, I can tell. If I can tell her, I can tell anyone. And what I learned, from my last relationship, because it was so close, that was my circle, my inner circle. I lost my voice in that to protect the other person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that was the right thing to do. In hindsight, I see that it was the wrong thing to do. So now it's a lot easier for me to be like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, it's that, detaching that emotion, from that request.
That is so, I wanted to piggyback on that a second ago when you were talking about it, because that is why so many people are finding themselves locked into things, afraid to speak up, because they do, especially when it comes to family. Because that emotion, that love, you're correlating that, and you're saying, it's out of obligation.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, I said it before, I don't discriminate against anybody. I don't care if you're a parent.
She does.
Parent, grandparent, whoever you are. Now, I ain't say I talk to them any kind of way. I want to die. But it ain't like Granny asked me, why you didn't tell me? And I'm like, it was none of your business. Negative. No, okay, so let's make that very clear. Yeah. Okay, we all. Who are you talking to? I don't even know anymore, Granny. I forgot. But it's just more so like, I know, especially with my dad, it was really hard for him when we were getting older to respect our grownness. And so what was happening was he still felt like, these are my babies. When we were like, Dad, we're adults now. Like, you have to respect my boundary. You have to respect when I say I don't want to talk about it. You can't make me talk about it. Well, I'm trying to talk about this. Well, that's fine. I get what you're saying. Then I'm just going to sit here quiet. And I'm not going to say anything. And so over time, he started recognizing, okay, this is pushing our relationship further apart. And so, with that being an issue, it was like he started recognizing, okay, y'all are grown. Y'all are my babies, but you're not babies anymore. And I think even in, my sister dynamic, because I have 5 sisters, You know, when you grow up very close, you're used to talking to each other, telling, each other stuff. And it was like, over time, it's like, we grown. We're almost 40. We're not sharing secrets.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as secrets no more. We're not 10. This is not the Babysitters Club. We're not doing that. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, when it comes to family, detaching that emotion is very, very real. And I mean, obviously, I don't have a problem with it, and y'all may be saying, Zanya, why is it so easy for you? And I think for me, naturally, like my mom is, she's very isolated, right? Mm-hmm. Like my mama, you have to go find her and dig her from under a rock.
Or wait for her to appear.
Right, yes, make a grand appearance. Everybody's like, have you talked to her? And then you call her, and you like, everybody's nervous. Oh my God, please. I'm calling crying. Just stop by our house and da-da-da-da. And you get there, she's like, what? Mm-hmm. You're like, what do you mean? What? But that's her boundary. Mm-hmm. And so even though that's difficult for me, at times I have to respect, sometimes I laugh at myself because I'm like, Z, you just like her. You're just I'm like, yo, you're just like her. Like you're angry, but that's how you are. You're in a corner. People have to dig you up, and then you come out like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Why everybody upset? What's the problem?
When you text 3 days later, like, oh yeah, I'm good.
But I do be good. I be good. And it's like, what I love about why Candace said that is it's not just coming from the person who's isolated, mm-hmm. or from the person who's protecting their privacy. It should reflect onto the receivers, mm-hmm. so they'll understand that when this happens, detach your emotion. Mm-hmm. I remember I had to have several conversations like, yo, I didn't block you. Why are you in your feelings? Well, you never call me back. Every time I call you, it goes to voicemail. Every time anybody calls me, it goes to voicemail. Sure. And I think, when you express those type of things, and it takes time, because I didn't start out putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, mm-hmm. And for a while, it took some adjusting. Mm-hmm. It took some adjusting. Now, it's been like that for years now, y'all, all jokes aside, that when my phone rings, it literally scares me. Mm-hmm. Like, one day it actually rung because I had turned the ring on because I was really expecting a call, and I was like, Zanya, you cannot miss this call. Mm-hmm. So I turned the ring on. And that mug rang, and I was like, I scared myself. I was like, oh, it's just the phone, Mm-hmm. But it got that serious to now where people, they have no choice but to respect my privacy boundary. Mm-hmm. And so whether it was established out of a need or it was established out of, I need to gain my respect back, mm-hmm. which I really want us to touch on that, because sometimes we can give so much of our power away. Mm-hmm. Where we allow people, we give them too much access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How do you guys? Candace like, oh yeah.
I'm disappearing. I will disappear in a minute.
Right.
Like, when I get overwhelmed and I feel like there's just too many people in my space or asking like too much of me, mm-hmm. like before I just explode, I take a week. I will take a week and disappear from everyone, mm-hmm. and everything. No, mm-hmm. phone calls, no text messages, no social media, no family. Don't call me to pick up nothing. Don't ask me to do anything for a week.
Right.
And people really don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends, the first time she experienced it, like she was just out of her mind. She was like, "Who does that?" She was like, "I'm worried," and she's like,
It's me. I'm the hypocrite. Because I have all those rules for me, mm-hmm. but if one of y'all did it, I'm livid. I'm like, how dare you? Are you serious? And it's like,
I'm trying to call you.
That is such a double standard.
Well, here's the thing. And
I admit it though.
What I learned from mm-hmm. her is, okay, like she's a little more sensitive than I am. You know what I mean? So what I learned was, hey, I'm gonna give you a heads up. Mm-hmm. Next week, I'm off the grid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like you can at least extend that courtesy to people who are close to you.
Right. And you know what? A part of me, they used to bother me. Like, it used to make me itch. Right? Because, like, my friend Bridget, she comes from a family full of law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And so when something like that happens, immediately she's mm-hmm. like, okay, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. Something's down. I'm like, Bridget, you need to relax. Like, I was in the tub. Seriously. But it's like, now because I've understood where she comes from, that when things like that happen with them growing up, it was a serious issue.
Right.
And so it's like, I do try to give a heads up. Whereas before, it was like, I don't owe you that. I don't have to tell you anything.
Right.
But then after maturing, in prioritizing, who I allow in my space, I start recognizing, okay, it's not about being so private. It's about safety reasons too. Because people need to know where you are. Somebody needs to know. So if something happens, it's not like, okay, nobody knows where Zana is. We don't have a clue. And so, those are other reasons to take into consideration when you're sharing information. Now, how do you guys know how to discern who you share what with?
I pray over it. I'm sorry,
every time, though.
I have to no, for real.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I do. I have to, depending on what it is. But if we're just having a conversation and it's just random, but I guard what I talk about. I'll listen. I'll sit back and listen to somebody have a whole conversation. Yeah. And on the instant, you're like, oh, I just wish I could talk to him. But I know for me, I can't. You're not the person that I need to talk to. And I feel like when it's necessary to come out, it does.
Right.
Because you just never know. You don't. Like, even today for me, I was talking to somebody and I told a whole lot of stuff today. But I wouldn't have picked up the phone just to say, hey, listen. Right. But I felt like it was that moment that was necessary, Because sometimes you may have something that you need to discuss or talk about, and this could be something that they're dealing with. So you just never know what it is.
Yeah. So for me, before when privacy was more so of like an insecure thing, like I could not handle criticism from people. So it was like, I'm not gonna let anybody in because even if it was constructive, even if it was a friend, it was like I just couldn't handle it. So it was like I just wouldn't let anybody in. And then as I matured and I started being able to handle that criticism, it was like, okay, but are you criticizing me to help me, or do you feel like I'm beneath you and you can talk to me any kind of way?
Right.
So it's kind of like again, kind of building that relationship. But sometimes somebody might ask me for my opinion on something, or if I've been through something, and if I feel comfortable in that moment, I'll share to a certain degree. But if I don't know you like that, if we haven't established that relationship, it's gonna stay very surface. Right. I'm gonna say what I need to say in that situation to help you out, or to keep the conversation going. But I'm not gonna get like real deep, like, oh, when I was a child, this happened. Right. Like, no, I'll share with you what needs to be shared, and then I'm gonna keep it moving because I don't know if you have my best interest at heart.
It's true. Candace?
It's true.
She been waiting, y'all.
No, I mean, not really. But it's just like, thinking about what she said, the same thing that you said. There are people who will, like come in and they'll need something from you. And I feel like we go through things not just for ourselves, but to help other people.
So true.
But the problem with our society is that we're conditioned to be so boxed into ourselves, even more so now, that we don't get the opportunity to learn from one another, or it's a pit against the other. There's not that, like that camaraderie, that sisterhood, brotherhood. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, establishing boundaries is so multifaceted that you just never stop establishing them because you have to first establish them with yourself. Yeah. And that's what I had to learn. I didn't have any for myself. So then I had to learn how to not go back on my word once I, decided I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna overextend myself anymore. I'm not gonna allow like my words and my opinions to be muffled anymore. Like I've done that. That didn't work. So now it's time for something different. Yeah.
But then being okay with people being mad at you.
That was a whole nother
that was a whole nother layer. Like you're really mad because I need some rest and I'm taking it. Seriously, you're mad at me?
And then the thing is, like, Tashea and all of y'all kind of touched on it. Sometimes I'm just a listener. There are some people that I'm close to that I'm just like, I know I can't share anything with them, but I'll listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's so funny sometimes because you know some people you can kind of tell when they're sharing just so they can get stuff from you.
Oh, I hate it.
Yes.
And you're just like, you know, I would
I hate
blank
it.
stare you to death. Do you hear me? I mean, I would sit there and be like, oh, okay. And so I have even made the mistake of misjudging. And what I mean by that is, you know, how some people, you know, you think they're mature enough to handle what you're going through. And so you open up only to recognize, okay, you're not mature. So now you got all this information that you're like, you don't need to know.
Oh, yes.
And I misjudged your character. Not saying that they are a horrible person. You're just not at the mental or spiritual, you know, intellectual level that I thought you were. And so now I've you know, revoked my privacy card for, you know, for this. And so all that does is make you go even deeper into this shell where you're like,
I can't.
yeah.
I tried it. I can't do it. Stay over there.
You know, it's like the older I get, the more I realize why, like, my mother has few friends. You know, it just seems like the older you get, the fewer friends you have, but you realize the difference between, you know, your outer circle and
Right.
the people
Yeah.
who are really going to be there. But it's something.
You know what? And it's about learning, like Candace said, learning yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when you understand why you're being private, because sometimes it's not even about you. Like my friend Bridget, she's always talking about her daughter. A lot of things she's super private about because she's protecting her child. And so it's like, you know, I can't be free like that. I can't be open like that because I know if this happens and this person takes that information or they turn this information against me, it's going to affect her. And so it's like when you have that added element, you know, of, okay, with me being open, it may be a good thing. But if that good thing turns bad, then it affects all of these people in my core. And so it's like you have to take that element into consideration. But what I will go back to is, you know, discerning who to talk to. Because have y'all ever had a moment where you've talked to a stranger? Or somebody that you least expected to have a conversation with, and then before you know it, it's freedom. You're like, oh my God,
I needed this.
but it's not like you go back to them and keep telling them information. It was just that one time, you know. And those impromptu, I will say, healing sessions, you know, where you're like, okay, I don't have to be so private about this. And it's kind of crazy because I remember I was engaged to this guy, right? And so, you know, I had called off the wedding, and I did, y'all. It was like, literally wrote an email, greetings, wedding's off, pray for us. That was it. And I remember my sister, it was like, we had broken up, and it was like a year and a half later, and she was like, so how's counseling going with y'all? With who? She was like, I thought y'all were in counseling. I was like, girl, we ain't talked to each other in over a year. And she was in shock, and she was so offended because she's like, I'm your sister. You know, that's something I feel like you should let me know. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's a very, because when I went through my divorce, I had like people who felt like they should have known more. It was always the, well, what happened?
Right,
What happened?
right.
You know, it's just,
But why?
yeah, you know.
Why?
You know, because the thing is, people, the sad thing is, a lot of people want to hope or know that you're more miserable than they are.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. You know.
That's real.
Yeah,
No, that's
really.
real.
Because if you really think about it, the people who kind of reach out, I mean, and we've all experienced it. We've probably been that person in a lot of situations when things happen, whether we go through bad breakups or we have like family members, you know, that we lose. There will be people who will reach out, but you know, it's short-lived.
Right.
And you have to, you know, like weigh the people who were there along the way, who actually invested in those friendships, relationships, you know, family relationships as well, from the people who just want another drama part. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I feel like for me, when it comes to family and personal things like that, I do discern between like, okay, who was here,
Right.
you know, along the way. Yeah,
Right.
we're family, but you have no investment in this. So you don't get the story. You know what I mean?
Right. And then, you can kind of discern the heart of the person. Like when I found out, like Candace didn't even have to tell me. It was like I just knew and I discerned it and I was like, okay, that's not my place to go to her and be like, so, did you get a divorce? I kind of been feeling it. I can see a change. You know how people just be fishing and they're baiting? And I didn't have to do any of that. I just knew, okay, when she ready, when it's time, we'll reconnect. We'll connect and we'll talk about it. And that's exactly what happened. It was like the divorce was way over. She had healed and everything. It was like, so what's up? It's like, you have to get to a space, y'all. And that's why I said it's privacy the best policy because, don't keep everything bottled in. You need somebody that you can reach out and touch and pour into and they can pour into you and y'all can, it should be a constant exchange. You know what I mean? But also, whenever you think about your circle or your core, understand that there are some things, I may trust all of these women sitting up here, right? And know that I can confide in them and it won't go anywhere. Right. But that don't mean that I confide in them every time something's wrong.
Yeah. Right.
And so I don't get offended if Tashea decides not to confide in me and then I find out something later. I'm not mad like, oh, why you ain't tell me? It's an understanding like I get it. I get it because we all do it. We all do it. And of course there may be one person that probably knows a lot more than anybody else, but even that person don't know everything. Don't know everything because it's some things that you just keep between you and God.
It's seasonal. You do. And I feel like
that too.
It's seasonal. Because, just say we all talk, consistently or whatever. I may talk to you January through March.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Real. That's real.
And it doesn't mean that we're not having conversations and then something else may arise and I may go to you, or whatever. And I noticed that in my life because I be like, 1 to 2 years, friendships last, see them all the time, talk to you every day, and then you just be gone.
Right.
And it used to bother me, but now that I understand it because I'm in it, as far as I would, like I said earlier, kind of step back, I will, because I have a lot going on. But I had to realize that when this time is coming, because there be times I miss her sometimes. Yeah. But you'll look up and she will call me and feel me sometimes.
Yeah, I will.
She definitely will. She'll call me like, well, I was just trying to lay but I'll be leaving tomorrow. Wait a minute. But it takes the understanding of, like y'all said before, understanding yourself first. Because you have to have your security. And I've learned to move with no expectations. And I know it sounds weird because it's like, well, when we dating, what do you expect from me? I expect you to be who you are. Do what you're going to do, and then we'll figure it out when it comes,
But, the thing that you said about seasonal, there are some people that are still in my life. And there were seasons where we were super close.
Yes.
And then now there are seasons where we're not as close. Still my friends, still love them, still trust them. And I know they still have my back. But there are sometimes that relationships will shift.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, in this season, TT was my very best friend. I can depend on her, I can call her, I can do this.
They say something about us. We've been in and out.
Right. Then there are some seasons, and it's because people's lives are changing. And so I understood that TT's privacy boundary changed when she got married. Then she had kids. And so stuff what we used to talk about before when they was just dating and she would be like, oh, Jack, what, girl? Now it's like, this is my husband. I have to protect my unit. I have to protect my covenant. I have to protect my children. So it's like, it's not that she don't trust me, that she can't come to me and confide in me when there are issues. It's just that, okay, now I have to be more careful. And it's about being adaptable, and being flexible when it comes to other people's privacy and their boundaries. And then taking it even a step further, when you think about spiritual things, there are some things that God give you and He download into you. Everybody don't need to know. there are some things that you like, okay, I can share this with a couple of prayer partners. Y'all be praying, you know, y'all be covering me and this and that. Then there are some things where you like, honey, don't nobody need to know but me and King Jesus. As long as I got him, I don't need nobody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, like Tashea said earlier in the conversation, it takes prayer. It takes prayer because especially with good things.
Yeah.
Because you'll get some good news and you be thinking, oh, let me call such and such.
Oh,
and then you call them and it's like,
They don't
okay, they don't move from the inner circle to the outer circle real quick. Just on their reaction to what I'm telling them. And you'll see that. I know in this season for me, I've seen it so much, especially here lately, where people are considered not, you know, in the core, but just in the circle. And it's like, I have very, what's the word? Whatever. I have kindly placed them into another category. And I will place you without announcement because I don't feel like it needs announced. And so I will just keep game, take duly noted, and then I will kindly take you and your cucumbers or what was that?
Celery.
Take you and your celery and go on. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's because with the shifting of life, when things are changing in your life, everything's shifting. You don't get to shift. You know, if a box rope, a boat rocks. It's the braids. They tight. But you know, if a boat rocks, everything on that boat is gonna shift.
Yeah.
You know, if y'all ever seen videos of a cruise ship in a bad storm, and it's like you see inside the boat, the cameras, everybody, and then it just. It's like if it is a storm or a strong wind, whatever you want to call it, and that boat begins to rock and it's shifting, everything that's connected and attached to that boat is going to shift. Things are going to be out of place. Things are going to look funnier. You know, when things, even when the boat stops rocking, things are broken. Some things, you know, you can patch back together, but it'll never be the same again. You get what I'm saying? Things are discombobulated. Things are in disarray. And it's like, you know, you have to be okay.
Some stuff drowns.
That too. And it's like, you have to be okay with that. And so it's like in this process of life, because your privacy, like Candace said, it's gonna forever keep changing. It's gonna forever keep changing. Not just because of you. Because there is somebody that is placing you in another category because of where you are in life. If TC calls me and she's like, I really need you right now, and I'm like, I don't have that in me right now. She may take that and be like, well, let me put Zanya in another category because she wasn't there for me, and I call her and I'm like,
I came to her dorm room in college after I dropped her off and came back to get a cricket out of her room that I couldn't even find.
Listen, she
not a cricket.
Bro, I still want to love you. Listen, I'm scared of bugs, butterflies, you name it. And TC used to have to walk me to my dorm room at night, and she would go in my. You so disrespectful. She would go in my room before I even went in, and she would get all the crickets.
Yeah, one time I dropped her off, made it all the way back to my house. She called me frantically, so
Literally
I jumped
crying.
in the car, rushed back, like, oh my God, I need to call the police. And I get this, she's like, it's a cricket in my.
This is the truth. This is the God's honest truth. And I thank God that I didn't keep that private. She came and helped me with the cricket. Why y'all looking at me like that?
I mean, I just think it's great that she actually came to deliver you from the
I didn't know what was going on, and she was so.
you didn't go there for the cricket?
I was like, oh my God, she was like, I
She
didn't
didn't know
know
what was going on.
So I'm like, okay. And then I get there and I'm like, I'm here now, so I'm gonna find the script, but don't call me no more.
She did. She was upset.
Don't call me no more.
But I meant that. I was in tears. Yeah, I thought that death flashed before my eyes. Do you hear me?
We have been through so much that has solidified our friendship throughout the years. No matter how much time we go without talking, it's just been solidified. A little stuff like that.
Yeah, it has. And you know what? I'm glad that we're having this type of conversation because it creates an avenue to understand people in your circle better. And so you won't be so quick to place judgment.
Yeah.
You know, I think after the growing pain took place with me being on Do Not Disturb, Zanya being super isolated, a lot of it was not about me just pushing people away or saying I don't want people in my circle. A lot of it was I'm growing, I'm trying to figure this out, and as of right now, I'm super isolated because I don't get it. And I'm trying to stay away because I don't want to bleed on people. And then everybody don't need to have a window to your process.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because if we be honest, process is ugly.
Very.
And you're very vulnerable, you're very naked, you're open, you know, and everybody doesn't need to see that because everyone doesn't have your best interests at heart. And they will take your place, your low place, your place of vulnerability, your nakedness, and they will blast it and share it with the world and slander you. And so those intimate parts that you're still trying to work out and figure out that needed to stay hidden between you and God or people that you could trust that, you know, will cover you, they went and shared it. And so a lot of times understand, ladies, you know, a lot of times it is not about folks trying to be funny. They don't want you in their life. You know, you need to share. I remember I was going through some stuff, and when I go through, I get real isolated. You don't hear from me. You ain't gonna talk to me. You know, I'm not gonna call you back. Now I make sure to text and be like, I'm fine, and that's the most you gonna get, so you'll know I'm alive. You know, and so but a lot of times it's just people are in a weird space. When Candace went through her divorce, that's a weird space. She's never experienced that. All of those emotions were new. You know, she was trying to figure it out herself. So it's like, I don't need everybody hand in the pot trying to figure it out. It's almost like Granny say, get out the kitchen when I'm cooking. You get what I'm saying? And you're trying to add your own little spices and taste stuff. This is off and this, that, and you like, if you would just get out. It reminds me of when me and Candace was little, y'all. And you know, I was
has a story.
no, listen, I'm talking about process here. So, you know, I've gotten pretty good. I don't do hair, but you know, I can do my own hair, right? But you know, I always tell
Major
people
improvement.
But it started with Candace because I remember I was thinking I was cute and I was in the mirror, I was curling my hair, and I was like, yeah, girl, I'm really talking, thinking I'm doing something. Candace was like, you know you curling your hair, all right? And I was like, no, I'm not. She was like, yes, you are. That's why your bangs are like this. Can you imagine? We little girls, and I was like, well, what do you mean? She was like, turn it around the other way. And so when she taught me, it was like, oh, okay. But even in that, she didn't go blast me like, Zanya couldn't even curl her hair right. That's why her bangs are always like.
She never even bring that story up. She brings it up. Like,
you see what I'm saying? But even though that was a little thing when we were kids, but there are many times where I'm going to be doing something wrong. And somebody may see it and say, hey, Tashea, you know, you're doing this wrong. I'm not going to let you go out with some crooked bangs. You know what I'm saying? You know, let me show you how to do it the correct way. And so that way I don't have to take the credit out in public for a private moment.
Right.
You
And
see what I'm
that's
saying?
the problem. I feel like a lot of people, they want credit so much. You know, like, oh, you know I did your hair and you posted pictures, but you never take, who cares?
Right.
You know?
I mean, and I'm all for validating people, you know, if that's what you need. I'm going to give credit where it's due. But it's just like, you know, if God has put you in my life and I have created a private space and you know about a private battle that nobody else knew I was going through, I don't need you when I come out and be like, you know, I'm free. I finally want to share this and da-da-da. It's different if I come out and say, Candace, help me through that. Versus her saying, oh, I'm glad you finally testifying because, baby, I helped her do this, that, da-da-da. And you like, wait a minute, pause. I don't need you doing all that. You know, it's like, create a safe space for you. And so when it comes to if privacy is the best policy, I'm going to say yes. And then the only reason why I would say no really lightly is because sometimes you do need to be open to somebody.
I mean, we're human beings. We need that connection to someone else.
Right.
But again, it's situational, it's seasonal.
It is.
And you do need that time by yourself sometimes. You need a support group. You need somebody to talk to. But you have to work on you.
Or like Candace said one time a couple of weeks ago, she was like, you had a sounding board. Remember we was having that conversation? And she was like, she finally, you know, how did you say it? I can't even remember. But she basically, we was talking about her, having her own voice. And she was like, it's so important to have a sounding board.
Yeah, because like, it's like you live in your head for so long because you're not really talking about things that happen in your household or like in your close circle. And so you go like, wait, maybe it's me. Am I tripping? So you keep going through that over and over. Well, maybe if I change this and do this, and maybe this will all fix itself. And it's just like, spinning your wheels, and then it's just like, well, okay, I gotta talk to somebody.
Right.
Either that, I have to check myself into right. But yeah, it was that. And what I learned was I had to break down that part of my pride. I had to break down my pride in order to say, hey, yeah, I know that you know me as Candace, but I'm Candace.
Right. Yeah.
So that's so true. And that comes with maturity, because I used to be like, whatever. But I used to be like, if I don't know how to figure it out, don't nobody else know how to figure it out. So I'm just gonna figure it out on my own. And then when I get it figured out, I'm good. You know? And then you get older, or you have friends that are a little bit older, just a little bit, and they looking at you like you crazy. It's like, what you looking at me like I'm crazy for?
Yes.
And it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna just sit there and let you keep curling your hair wrong because I'm trying to help you and you won't receive it. I don't need your help. I want my bangs like this. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
So after curling your hair wrong for so many times,
that's a perfect analogy.
You finally be like, okay, can you help me? And then I realized I didn't have, I don't know why, I just felt like you're not doing it right if you're not struggling. And so then I realized, you don't have to struggle through everything. Stop asking somebody to help you. And that doesn't mean that we're best friends now because I helped you and you helped me.
Right.
But I still have to sometimes say, okay, stop and just ask somebody for help. Or just stop and just talk to somebody. Get out of your head and say it to somebody else. Because me and my own self, there are still times I just think I know everything. I'm like, I'm good. I can figure it out. And it's stop. And
She
talk
said
to somebody else.
Look at the camera. She said it. I did not.
Listen. Listen. You met me when I was a kid. I'm grown now.
Okay. Oh, see?
But and speaking of kids, I think
level up.
That's a big thing too, is that we don't learn as kids what relationships are supposed to look like. What friendships
healthy relationships.
What they're supposed to look like. So it's like we usually don't even find out until we hit 30. You know what I mean? And now we're not having to just figure other people out, but still trying to figure ourselves out. Because I feel like I can only speak for me. But through up through my 20s, it was still okay, I have to be this person. You know what I mean? I have to make sure that I keep this appearance. I have to make sure that I keep this academic level, this, career, whatever it was, so that it wasn't seen as a disappointment. But it's just you let that part go. The older you get, the more you realize that stuff really doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's just everything that you feel, I want to just feel more, and allow myself to understand that that's okay and that's natural and you're supposed to trust that.
Right.
I feel like we go against that for so long because we're taught to kind of live in this construct of conformity. You know what I mean? So anything that lives outside of that box that has any raw emotion or any, tangible value, or even when you were saying, really speaking up for yourself,
right? It's
seen as it's taboo. It's not acceptable because it makes someone else feel away.
Well, it's because we're not taught boundaries,
right? We're not taught boundaries,
and so which is why we're having this conversation. Because there is a difference between boundaries and privacy. And then sometimes it's the same, and so it's the reason for these type of conversations, which I thank God that He gave me these topics, is because we're all in our 30s still trying to figure it out. And there are some of you maybe in the 30s or 40s and you dang, I'm glad I'm listening to this episode of Girl Talk, because I'm I need to have some privacy. And I need people to understand the why. And sometimes you're not going to ever know the why. You just need to respect it. You just need to respect it. And, and it may be offensive a little bit. I know with me shifting from, being so open, because I am an open person, but shifting from that to complete I'll let you know what I know. That took some major adaptation in my relationships, and honestly, some relationships did not survive because of it. But those who are meant to be in your life, family, they gonna be there. It ain't like you can erase them. But when it comes to friends, friendships don't always last.
Right.
And so I remember we were talking about it in another episode where it's like understanding that when somebody is growing and going through growing pains, you're going through the same pains. And it may be on a different level, but it's understanding that while they're growing and changing, the effects of them growing and changing is affecting you. And so it's like it's happening all at the same time. And so what it is it's like you're creating not a wall, but a protective barrier. Saying, okay, this is what works for me now. I need you to respect that. And so it's like instead of you getting upset, like, I don't know which one of y'all said it. I think it was Candace saying, I didn't have boundaries for myself. So it's like, I can't expect people to respect what I don't have. And so when you develop and establish that wall of privacy saying, hey, you cannot cross this line.
That's right.
Then other people, whether they're angry, whether they don't like it, whether they think it's foolish, trust me, I've heard it all. Girl, ain't nobody studying science. Her life ain't even that important, to be having her phone on do that. Ain't nobody even calling her that much. Guess what? You'll never know because you're not behind this wall. So you keep on saying whatever you're saying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so it's like you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
What's best for you because we don't know what journey God has you going on. We don't know what private battles you are fighting. We don't know, the things that, like you said, the internal things that are going on mentally, the things, God may be unscabbing some things that you thought had healed, but you really put a Band-Aid on. And so that's really affecting how you communicate. It's affecting now you rehash some trust issues. And so where you used to be super open with certain people, you like, ooh, I'm feeling that, that distrust again. So it's like, allow people to go through their process. And we are forever being processed. And some things you come out of, you're not supposed to be the same. And so if you see somebody come out of a situation and now they have a door where a door with a padlock where it used to be a screen door. Y'all know how at Granny house, it's a screen door, she leave it open, you can see through. But now when you go over Granny's, the door closed. And you try to open the screen door locked down, and you like, Granny,
It's locked too.
how am I supposed to not go? You know what I mean? It's like, you have to understand that because the times have changed and seasons have changed and the individual has changed and you have changed yourself. And now when you come to the door, you may not can see straight through anymore.
Right.
You may have that door with the padlock there that you now have to try to figure out, okay, how do I get access to the other side? And you may never get access.
Some friends might even in the same house.
Okay.
Now
We say I don't move on the same street.
Now move location.
So what do you want to leave the ladies with who are watching? Just so they can have some encouragement about privacy and how they should, I guess, govern themselves when it comes to being private, but also using wisdom, because we don't want you to be so private that you're fighting battles that you need help with. That you could get suicidal, that you can, start developing bad habits, popping pills, becoming extremely promiscuous, an alcoholic, partying too much where you're trying to heal yourself from the inside out. And it's like, okay, sometimes you need a little more help. Not just from friends, but therapy, maybe some prayer, just maybe a little prayer. But, I just want us to leave them with a word of encouragement when it comes to privacy and just use wisdom with it.
Okay, well, like I said before, we are social beings. We are meant to be connected with other people. We are meant to interact with others. But ain't nobody gonna take care of you like you gonna take care of you. So you have to make sure you're okay. And if that means withdrawing from people, then you withdraw. And if they're not okay with it, then maybe their season is up. And that's okay. I don't think we're meant to stay in any one thing forever. So be okay with the change. It's hard. I'm somebody, like, I wish I had a checklist or a to-do list or like step-by-step guide for everything in my life, because it's so much easier to me. But that's not reality. And the reality is you're going to make mistakes. Reality is sometimes you're going to be by yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. In those times of aloneness, we learn a lot about ourselves when we really grow. trying to be connected to everybody all the time leaves you empty. So
Yeah.
if you really want to know yourself, and if you really want to grow as a person, you have to take that time to yourself, and you have to keep other people out sometimes.
Yeah. Want to use it next?
I would just say be unapologetic. It's okay to seclude sometimes, not a lot. Just to be able to, like she said, get back to yourself and understand who you are first. Because you can't tell somebody what you want and you don't even know what you want.
Right.
So you have to understand that first. And I feel like, that is the mechanical breakdown when it comes to relationships of any kind.
No, I was going to say of any kind.
Of any kind. But also understanding your intimate space. Because I don't feel like a lot of people know what that looks like. But just being in a position of where you are open to knowing that it's okay to transition your privacy policies.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can change them.
Yes.
And also
Without needing permission.
with no permission.
Yeah.
Because at the very bottom it's copywritten by yourself.
Uh-huh.
Whatever your privacy policy is, any privacy policy you look at, it says it at the bottom. It's copywritten. You cannot
Without permission or approval.
Without permission or approval, and I can change this at any time. And just understanding what your value is when it comes to putting those privacy policies together.
Yeah. Candace?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she really hit the nail on the head with that one. You do have to establish, like I said, those boundaries with yourself first, and then move forward with other people. Also, having that one, maybe two, one soundboard, it really does come in handy, because this isn't just, we went to kindergarten together. This is somebody that, if you were down your last leg, like, you can really share anything with.
Right.
And that's gonna be the person that's gonna know how to read in between the lines. And that's what you'll need in situations like that. And like you said, being outspoken and just standing up, like, from jump. Even before you seclude yourself or you put those privacy policies in place, you also have to stand by those boundaries verbally, openly, loudly, so that the people that you're, because if you just disappear and then it's like, oh, okay, well, she back now, so okay. But no, I need you to understand first, like you do a child.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of, in adulthood, we feel like we're beyond being taught. And we're not, you know what I mean? And we learn the same way that small children learn. Yeah, so we have to, make those proclamations and make them clear, very clear, first with ourselves and then with the people around us. And I think that it's a lot easier that way to protect our privacy, not just in those moments, but even in future moments.
And you know what? And people will mimic that energy. So if you are serious about your privacy and your boundaries, they gonna be serious about it. If you're lax about it, they gonna be lax about it. And I'm not saying that there aren't ever any exceptions, because sometimes there are. There are some times where there's exceptions, but we're talking about just in general across the board overall. But what I want to leave you guys with is pray, 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 pray. Okay? I've been on the side where I've become isolated because I talked to somebody and they told my business. And I've been on the other side where somebody became isolated because they told me something and I shared it. And they were like, you betrayed me, you whatever, what do you call it? Something, you abandoned the trust and this, that, and the third. And my intentions were not to do that. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was just out gossiping like, ooh, Candace, girl, let me tell you. It was like I'm talking to someone seeking to understand, or, honestly trying to defend somebody, where I'm like, no, that ain't true because this is what I know. And they was like, you had no right saying that. And I'm like, I was trying to, okay. And then it burned the relationship. Yeah. And so it was like, no matter how you try to fix it, you have to respect that. You have to just say, you know what, you're right. That's why you have that privacy bubble there, and I have to respect that. I don't care what you say. But it's about praying because God will give you discernment. He will give you strategy. He will give you dreams. He will give you intuition. He will give you feelings. The Holy Spirit will make the hair stand up on your neck, and you be like, why every time I'm around them, I get ready to say something, I choke? Because you need to shut up. Okay? That's the Holy Spirit saying, shut up, don't tell them Nathan. Do you understand me? Trust me, he will do it. He will do it, and I think sometimes we don't rely on that because we over mystify, God and the Holy Spirit. I thought I had another stream. Oh, there it is. Whole episode is tucked in, but it's out now. But I think sometimes we over mystify, where we have to be so deep when prayer is just, okay, God, help me. This is Candace calling me on the phone. Give me wisdom. If I need to shut up, when I get ready to say something, let my line be.
Yes.
Hey, it sounds funny, but I'm telling you, I've done it. You be like, I've done it. You know what, God? If something happened, I get ready to say something, I shouldn't let Ginger bark. I be like, girl, let me call you back. I haven't. He will do that for you. And so I pray that you are listening to all of them and the nuggets of wisdom that they've given you. These are things that we know because we've experienced it. We've learned it the hard way. We've been processed. And guess what? We are still being processed. We are still developing privacy, policies in our own life. And they are still being shifted in every which way. Like I was talking about when I was talking about the box, Brody.
The box.
The box. The box. So understand that when your boat rocks, that everything is going to be shifted around you, and give people grace. Give people grace to change and be okay in your element, all right? So ladies, I thank y'all for joining us. Thank y'all ladies for your input. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know what time it is. It's Friday. Next Friday is going to be the same thing, same time. We're right here for another episode of Girls Talk, where we keep it real, we keep it raw, and we keep it classy. Y'all have a safe weekend. We love y'all. Holla. See you later.
Your brain. And if you got your act together, we can make it happen in any kind of weather. Cause I gotta make something out of nothing. I turn it into everything. Allow me to make it plain. Listen to what I say.